If you are a group practice, or if you're a solo practice with administrative staff, you will need to create your staff member profiles in your therapy appointment account. To do this, you must have owner or manager privileges. You'll start with Settings, and then choose the Staff tab. In this example, I already have staff designated, so let me orient you to this screen. Below, you will see your active staff members. They have a green check mark to the left of their name. You'll notice their names are arranged alphabetically by last name on your list. To the right, you will see their email address and the roles which they're currently assigned. On the far right, you will see that I have tags set up next to these therapist names. These assist my intake staff in finding the next available therapist to meet a client's needs, and we'll cover that feature in a separate video. The staff members on this page are divided into therapists or your clinical providers at the top, and these are all paid seats in your therapy appointment account. As we go on down the page, the next section is Staff Other. These are free accounts assigned to non-clinical staff members. At the very bottom are external agent users attached to your practice. You are most likely to have this type of user if you contract with a professional billing or practice management company, and we'll cover this in a separate video. At the top right of this page, you have 3 buttons. The one on the left, if present, can show you staff accounts that you've had in the past which are no longer active for your practice. You'll notice they have a dark blue X to the left of their names. I can hide them again by reselecting this button. The staff members with the orange minus indicators are locked out of their account because in my security settings, I directed Therapy Appointment to lock out staff members who haven't logged in the last 90 days. I can provide them access again by selecting their name, going into Workplace Settings, and enabling their account. Now, let's add a new staff member to your therapy appointment account. I'm going to click Staff at the top in order to get back to my staff screen. Let's go to the Plus Staff blue button in the top right corner. Select it, and here you're going to add that staff member's first and last name and an email address and set up their primary location if you are a multi-location practice. If you're not quite ready to invite the staff member to their account yet, go ahead and just enter your own email address in this field for the time being. You can change it later when you're ready to invite the staff member to log in. Down below, select the roles and permissions that you want to give this staff member. First, let's review setting up the clinical members of your team. The therapist role is a clinical member of your team and is a paid account. This staff member will have their own schedule, their own clients, and will be able to create progress notes for those clients. If your provider is going to be using integrated telehealth and therapy appointment that is native to therapy appointment, select this box. Note that if you are electing to have your providers connect Zoom as a telehealth provider, you would leave this box blank in that case. Now, decide what other privileges your providers might have. Accept client payments means that the provider can log in a payment for the session if the client pays for cash, check, or other payment method, and if you're connected with integrated credit card processing and therapy appointment, they can click a button to charge the credit card on file. Additionally, if you've set up auto pay in your practice settings with credit card processing, when the provider finishes their session note, they can automatically charge the client's credit card for the session fee or copay. Here is an example of a staff member logging in as a therapist with the Accept Client Payment setting and telehealth connected to their account. Here is an example of a staff member logging in as a therapist who has Accept Client Payments enabled and the telehealth connected to their account. So this is a look at the dashboard screen. I want you to note there is no access to billing screens here. Okay. If they go to a client's profile, there is no access to billing screens on the profile. There is no access to reportings or settings. What the client can see or what the therapist can see is their own schedule, their own clients, their messages, their name. Okay, so when they see a client, if you've enabled them to take payment, when they go to that session and click on it, they have an option to go ahead and take payment from this screen. So if we click on this, this is going to say, yes, you can take payment for this appointment. And so it's $25 a client owes. How much is the client paying today? By cash, by check, by the integrated credit card, or external credit card. If you also have auto pay enabled, your therapist wouldn't even have to go and click that button. All your therapist would need to do in this case is go ahead and write the session note on the client. Okay, so writing this note, and when they preview the note, if payment was not already completed by the client for this session, or your front desk is going to invite them to collect the card on file. So we'll go ahead, finalize and lock, and that payment was taken and logged in and the note's finished. The next section under this therapist role is client financials. Most group practices choose to not give their providers access to this setting, as it allows that provider to view and edit the client's account screen, including edit past transactions and review and submit their own insurance claims. However, if you do need to have your therapist do this and have that much access, this would give them the ability to do so for their own clients. I am now logged in as a therapist who has been given that ability to access client financials. So what that means is that I now have a billing menu item. When I click this billing menu item, I'm able to see the claim actions, take action on this, balance and credits due, manage claim benefit, and verify insurance. In other words, I can do my own insurance billing for my own clients in a group practice if that's what you want them to be able to do. Additionally, when they go to a client's account, they now have this billing tab in the client's profile so that they can see and edit any of these transactions. They could do refunds back. So it gives them full access to totally manage the financials of their own clients. I'm back in as an owner or manager role and managing what my therapist can access when they log in their account. This last section for the therapist is reporting. This would allow a therapist to view reporting only on their own clients and own sessions. Many group practices who hire contract therapists and pay them a percentage of income enable this view so that the therapist can view total income collected for their clients, their own aging, and accounts receivable report. So in this case, I am going to give a therapist access to reporting, but not access to client financials. Of course, you can give them access to client financials if you want to. So let's take a look at what this is going to look like when the therapist logs in. Okay, we're logging in as the therapist. And now you'll see on the menu item that billing is taken away because I took that access away in this case, but I gave the therapist access to reports. So when I click on that reports tab, I am now able to see reporting for my own clients. I'll look at the last 30 days of income, what has come in from my clients in that time frame. Okay, so all the reports, but limited to only my own sessions and my own clients. Here's my accounts receivable report. Okay, so there's nothing a therapist could edit in this case. There are no transaction screens to be edited, no claims to be managed, but just a view of income that's been collected, number of sessions they've had, that sort of thing. That can give them some insight into how much money to expect to be paid for their sessions, especially when they're contract employees. Logging back in as that owner account now, and going to settings and staff, let's go on and take a look at the roles I might want to provide to one of my staff members who are not providers. Now, any of these roles could also be given to someone who is a provider in the practice. So maybe you have a practice with multiple owners and they're also therapists or providers. So I might also want to give that co-owner this manager role, okay? Now, if these roles are not attached to a therapist, these are free accounts. And a manager has almost as much access as does the owner role, with the ability to access settings and manage the entire practice. However, they are limited from accessing some security settings, deactivating the practice, and changing the credit card on file for the practice. The reporting role for an administrative practice is also only available if the manager level access is given. So only managers in the practice can view access-wide reporting. Okay. The scheduling role, given an administrator or user the ability to add new clients and schedule for the practice. But if it's isolated, in other words, there is no other roles that this particular provider is being given, okay, then the only thing they're able to do is schedule. They can't take payment. So let's go take a look at what this would be like in that role. So here we are as logging in as Sam Scheduler. So he only has scheduling access role. Here's the dashboard screen. They do have access to that intake wizard and the list of new clients. They have access to all of the clients in the practice. If we go take a look at a particular client, do not have access to any of the billing screens. On the client's profile, I'm unable to see any of the insurance information. I do have the ability to add a credit card on file for a client, however, okay. And then if I'm checking in a client for the practice, let's say Albert just came in, I wanted to check him in, you'll notice I don't have a button in order to take payment from the client for this session today. We're back in that owner account now looking at our staff and what roles we're going to provide them. So let's talk about the biller role. The biller role is one step under being a manager. They do not have access to practice settings, okay? But they can manage schedules and schedule for the practice, as well as process payments and manage the claims for the practice. So let's go take a look at that role. So here I am logged in with someone who only has biller access. So you will notice that on their menu, they now have this billing, which gives them access to that billing page to manage claims, see balances and credits due, manage insurance policy problems. They also have access to the entire list of clients in the practice. And when they go to the practice profile of a client, they have access to the insurance section of the forms. They have access to the billing section of the forms. But you'll notice in this case, they don't have access to reporting. Okay. And they do have access to take payments on a client. So if they're going to the calendar and they want to go ahead and take a payment on a client, they have that accept payment option to take payment. Back in the staff roles section, I am assigning a staff administrator role. By its nature, owners and managers are already staff administrators, but this is a role that can stand alone and is most often used by nonprofit schools, university systems, where someone in the organization needs to be able to add and manage staff members and security, but they don't need to have any access to therapy appointment to see clients or view schedules, notes. So it's a very limited role that has its uses in some organizations. Here is an example of being logged in with only the staff administrator role. So they do have the ability in the settings screen. They can edit and add the practice contacts area if they would need to do so. Okay. They have the staff, so they can manage staff just like we were in here. They can also manage the security settings for the practice. They can receive and send messages to the practice, but that is pretty much the limit of what they can do. So let's go ahead as a practice manager, a practice owner, or that staff administrator and set up a new staff member. All right, so I'm going to click the blue plus staff member at the top of the screen, enter in a name, address, select the role, and then click continue to invite them into the portal. Now, once that person is added, right, I can then go into their name or profile, okay, and this is where I will have the ability to set up names and professional names for that provider, gender, the license and identification of that provider, so their NPI number if they're licensed, taxonomy codes. This is useful for billing insurance purposes or super bill purposes. You also have individual billing information down here. You wouldn't need to use this unless you're in that unique situation where you have a therapist that has to bill or submit their own claims and their own insurance and credentialing out separate from the practices. Okay, can set their time zones and their abilities. I'm here, I can manage the roles and what they have access to. Okay, and I can see service agreements. All right, so that covers this roles section in therapy appointment. Thanks for watching this video. We'll dive into supervision, external agents, and data imports in other help articles and videos.